All right, here we go. Chapter 12. We remember in chapter 11, they all got to see the wizard, and the wizard gave them all a task to do before he would help them. And that task was to find and kill the Wicked Witch of the West. And so chapter 12 is called The Search for the Wicked Witch. This is a long chapter, so I might do this in two separate videos because it's going to be pretty long. The soldier with the green whiskers led them through the streets of the Emerald City until they reached the room where the guardian of the gate lived. This officer unlocked their spectacles to put them back in his great box, and then he politely opened the gate for our friends. "Which road leads to the Wicked Witch of the West?" asked Dorothy. "There is no road," answered the guardian of the gates. "No one ever wishes to go that way." "How then are we to find her?" inquired the girl. "That will be easy," replied the man, "for when she knows that you are in the country of the Winkies, she will find you and make you all her slaves." "Perhaps not," said the Scarecrow, "for we mean to destroy her." "Oh, that is different," said the guardian of the gates. "No one has ever destroyed her before, so I naturally thought she would make slaves of you, as she has of the rest. But take care, for she is wicked and fierce, and may not allow you to destroy her. Keep to the west, where the sun sets, and you cannot fail to find her." They thanked him and bade him goodbye, and turned toward the west, walking over the fields of soft grass, dotted here and there with daisies and buttercups. Dorothy still wore the pretty silk dress that she had put on in the palace, but now, to her surprise, she found that it was no longer green, but pure white. The ribbon around Toto's neck, too, had lost its green color, and was as white as Dorothy's dress. The Emerald City was soon left far behind. As they advanced, the ground became rougher and hillier, for there were no farms nor houses in this country of the West, and the ground was untilled. In the afternoon, the sun shone hot in their faces, for there were no trees to offer them shade, so that before night Dorothy and Toto and Lion were tired, and they lay down upon the grass and fell asleep, with the Woodman and the Scarecrow keeping watch. Now the Wicked Witch of the West had but one eye, yet that was as powerful as a telescope, and she could see everywhere. So, as she sat in the door of her castle, she happened to look around, and saw Dorothy lying asleep with her friends all about her. They were a long distance off, but the Wicked Witch was angry to find them in her country, so she blew upon a silver whistle that hung around her neck. At once there came running to her from all directions a great pack of wolves. They had long legs and fierce eyes and sharp teeth. "Go to those people," said the witch, "and tear them to pieces." "Are you not going to make them your slaves?" asked the leader of the wolves. "No," she answered. "One is of tin and one of straw. One is a girl and another is a lion. None of them is fit to work, so you may tear them all into very small pieces." "Very well," said the wolf, and he dashed away at full speed, followed by the others. It was lucky the Scarecrow and Woodman were wide awake and heard the wolves coming. "This is my fight," said the Woodman, "so get behind me and I will meet them as they come." He seized his axe, which he had made very sharp, and as the leader of the wolves came on, the Tin Woodman swung his arm and chopped the wolf's head from its body, so that it immediately died. As soon as he could raise his axe, another wolf came up, and he also fell under the sharp edge of the Tin Woodman's weapon. There were 40 wolves, and 40 times a wolf was killed, so that at last they all lay dead in a heap before the Woodman. Then he put his axe down and sat beside the Scarecrow, who said, "It was a good fight, my friend." They waited until Dorothy awoke the next morning. The little girl was frightened when she saw a great pile of shaggy wolves, but the Tin Woodman told her all. She thanked him for saving them and sat down to breakfast, after which they started again upon their journey. Now, this same morning the Wicked Witch came to the door of her castle and looked with her one eye that could see far off, and she saw all her wolves lying dead, and the strangers still traveling through her country. This made her angrier than before, and she blew her silver whistle twice. Straightway a great flock of wild crows came flying toward her, enough to darken the sky. And the wicked witch said to the King Crow, "Fly at once to the strangers, peck out their eyes, and tear them to pieces." The wild crows flew in one great flock toward Dorothy and her companions. When the little girl saw them coming, she was afraid. But the Scarecrow said, "This is my battle, so lie down beside me and you will not be harmed." So they all lay upon the ground except the Scarecrow, and he stood up and stretched out his arms. And when the crows saw him, they were frightened, as these birds always are by scarecrows, and they did not dare come any nearer. But the King Crow said, "It is only a stuffed man. I will peck his eyes out." The King Crow flew at the Scarecrow, who caught it by the head, and twisted its neck until it died. And then another crow flew at him, and the Scarecrow did the same to him. There were 40 crows, and 40 times the Scarecrow twisted a neck, until at last all were lying dead beside him. Then he called to his companions to rise, and again they went upon their journey. When the Wicked Witch looked out again and saw all her crows lying in a heap, she got into a terrible rage, and blew 3 times upon her silver whistle. Forthwith there was a great buzzing in the air, and a swarm of black bees came flying toward her. "Go to the strangers and sting them to death," commanded the witch. And the bees turned and flew rapidly until they came to where Dorothy and her friends were walking. But the woodman had seen them coming, and the Scarecrow had decided what to do. "Take out my straw and scatter it all over the little girl and the dog and the lion," he said to the woodman, "and the bees cannot sting them." This the woodman did, and as Dorothy lay close beside the lion and held Toto in her arms, the straw covered them entirely. The bees came and found no one but the woodman to sting, so they flew at him and broke off all their stingers against the tin without hurting the woodman at all. And as bees cannot live when their stingers are broken, that was the end of the black bees, and they lay scattered thick all about the woodman like little heaps of fine coal. Then Dorothy and Lion got back up, and the girl helped the Tin Woodman put the straw back into the Scarecrow again until he was as good as ever. So they started upon their journey once more. Now the Wicked Witch was so angry when she saw her black bees in little heaps like fine coal that she stamped her foot and tore her hair and gnashed her teeth. And then she called a dozen of her slaves, who were the Winkies, and gave them sharp spears, telling them to go to the strangers and to destroy them. The Winkies were not a brave people, but they had to do as they were told. So they marched away until they came near to Dorothy. Then the lion gave a great roar and sprang towards them, and the poor Winkies were so frightened that they ran back as fast as they could. When they returned to the castle, the Wicked Witch beat them well with a strap and sent them back to their work, after which she sat down to think on what she should do next. She could not understand how all of her plans to destroy these strangers had failed. But she was a powerful witch, as well as a wicked one, and soon she made up her mind how to act. There was in her cupboard a golden cap, with a circle of diamonds and rubies running around it. This golden cap had a charm. Whoever owned it could call 3 times upon the winged monkeys, who would obey any order that they were given. But no person could command these strange creatures more than 3 times. Twice already the Wicked Witch had used the charm of the cap. Once was when she made the Winkies her slaves and set herself to rule over their country. The winged monkeys had helped her to do this. The second time was when she fought against the great Oz himself and had driven him out of the land of the West. The winged monkeys had also helped her in doing this. Once more she could use this golden cap, for which reason she did not like to do it. Only once more could she use this golden cap, for which reason she did not like to do so until all to do so until all of her powers were exhausted. But now that her fierce wolves and her wild crows and her stinging bees were all gone, and her slaves had been carried away by the cowardly lion, she saw only one way left to destroy Dorothy and her friends. So the Wicked Witch took the golden cap from her cupboard and placed it upon her head. Then she stood upon her left foot, and said slowly, Epi, epi, pepi, kaki. Next she stood on her right foot and said, Hilo, holo, hello. After this she stood on both feet and cried in a loud voice, Zizzy, zoozy, zick. Now the charm began to work. The sky was darkened, and a low rumbling sound was heard in the air. There was a rush of many wings and a great chattering and laughing, and the sun came out of the dark sky to show the Wicked Witch surrounded by a crowd of monkeys, each with a pair of immense and powerful wings on its shoulders. One, much bigger than the others, seemed to be their leader. He flew close to the witch and said, You have called us for the third and last time. What do you command? Go to the strangers who are within my land and destroy them all, except the lion, said the Wicked Witch. Bring that beast to me, for I have a mind to harness him like a horse and make him work. Your commands shall be obeyed, said the leader. And then with a great deal of chattering and noise, the winged monkeys flew away to the place where Dorothy and her friends were walking. Some of the monkeys seized the Tin Woodman and carried him through the air until they were over a country thickly covered by sharp rocks. Here they dropped the poor woodman, who fell a good distance to the rocks, where he lay so battered and dented that he could neither move nor groan. Other monkeys caught the Scarecrow, and with their long fingers pulled all the straw out of his clothes and head. They had made his hat and boots and clothes into a small bundle and threw it into the top branches of a tall tree. The remaining monkeys threw pieces of stout rope around the lion and wound so many coils about his body and head and legs until he was unable to bite or scratch or struggle in any way. Then they lifted him up and flew away with him to the witch's castle, where he was placed in a small yard with a high iron fence around it, so that he could not escape. But Dorothy did not harm at all. She stood with Toto in her arms, watching the sad fate of her comrades, and thinking that it would soon be her turn. The leader of the winged monkeys flew up to her, his long, hairy arms stretched out, and his ugly face grinning terribly. But he saw the mark of the good witch's kiss upon her forehead and stopped short, motioning the others to not touch her. We do not dare to harm this little girl, he said to them, for she is protected by the power of good. That is greater than the power of evil. All we can do is carry her to the castle of the Wicked Witch and leave her there. So carefully and gently, they lifted Dorothy into their arms and carried her swiftly through the air until they came to the castle, where they sat her down upon the front doorstep. Then the leader said to the witch, We have obeyed you as far as we were able. The Tin Woodman and the Scarecrow are destroyed, and the lion is tied up in your yard. The little girl we dare not harm, nor the dog that she carries in her arms. Your power over our band is now ended, and you will never see us again. Then all the winged monkeys, with much laughing and chattering and noise, flew into the air and were soon out of sight. And I will leave it there for this one.